You ever get the feeling that your entire childhood was just one long setup for a punchline no one bothered to explain? That's what growing up in my house felt like. Everyone else had a role. I was just a background character in a show called Jason's Family, guest starring me as the Invisible Son. My name's Connor. I'm 27 now, but this started long before I had the words to explain it. My younger half-brother, Ryan, was the golden boy from the moment he popped out of the womb. Blonde curls, dimples, charming little lisp. My mom doted on him like he was some divine reincarnation of her lost dreams. My stepdad, Peter, acted like Ryan personally delivered him out of a midlife crisis. And me? I was the leftover from my mom's first marriage. My dad, rest his soul, died when I was 7. He was quiet but solid. The kind of man who never yelled unless it mattered. I didn't realize how much I relied on his quiet presence until it was gone. After he passed, my mom fell hard for Peter. Corporate sales guy. Expensive cologne. Smile that never reached his eyes. Within a year they were married, and Ryan was on the way. That's when I stopped being her son and started being the other one. I was still in the house, still part of the family in the photos, barely, but everything shifted. Birthday gifts got cheaper. Christmas stockings got lighter. Affection became a reward system. Ryan gets hugs, Connor gets head nods. Ryan spills orange juice, it's cute. I spill juice? You're too old for this. I didn't fight it. I adapted. You get used to swallowing silence like it's breakfast. What kept me going, weirdly enough, was my grandfather, my dad's dad. Grandpa Arthur. He lived 2 towns over, had this massive, creaky house filled with books and old jazz records. Visiting him felt like stepping into a world where I mattered. He'd quiz me on literature, cook me disgusting British food like spotted dick, which, yes, I pretended to like, and always, treated me like I was his heir. I'm leaving it all to you, kid, he'd say with a wink. You're your father's son. The only one in this family with a working brain. I thought he was joking. He wasn't. Grandpa passed when I was 23. Heart attack in his sleep. The funeral was small and cold. Mom didn't want to make a scene. But 2 weeks later, the lawyer called me in. The will left everything to me. Not just the house. $10 million. Mostly in stocks and real estate. My knees nearly buckled in the office. I'd never even seen more than $5,000 in my account. And now I was holding a pen that could change my entire life. I called my mom first. Hey, I said, my voice shaking. Did you know about Grandpa's will? Silence. Then, he left you something? Yeah. A lot, actually. She hung up. No. Congrats? No. I'm proud of you. Just cold air and a click. That should have been the first red flag. But the real explosion came 2 days later, when I came home from work and found all my stuff dumped in trash bags by the front door. Ryan was sitting on the couch, playing Xbox like it was just another Tuesday. Mom stood with her arms crossed. Peter loomed behind her like some discount security guard. You need to leave, she said flatly. What? The house is ours. Your grandfather's money is Ryan's now. We've handled it. I blinked. Handled it? What do you mean, he left it to me? She scoffed. That will doesn't exist anymore. And that's when everything fell apart. I stood there, next to those bulging trash bags, trying to decide whether I was dreaming or just having a mental breakdown. My brain kept circling back to one word. Handled. What the hell did she mean by handled it? Mom, I said slowly, trying to stay calm. Grandpa's lawyer gave me a copy of the will. It's legal. It's signed. Witnessed. I don't think. I said. She cut me off, her voice rising like it hadn't in years. You are not welcome in this house anymore, Connor. Peter took a step forward. This isn't up for debate. Pack your things and get out. And don't think you're taking anything that belonged to our family. My mom added, eyes narrowing. Our? I snapped. Grandpa Arthur was my dad's father. Not yours. Not Peter's. And definitely not Ryan's. She flinched like I'd slapped her. I wish I had. Instead, I stepped inside, pushing past them, and headed to my room. The air felt different, as if the walls knew I didn't belong anymore. I grabbed a backpack and started shoving in whatever I could: laptop, documents, a few shirts, a framed picture of me and Grandpa fishing when I was 9. I wasn't crying. Not yet. Just stunned. Then I heard it. Mom's voice, shrill and furious, screaming from the hallway. "You're not taking anything from here. Hand over that bag." I froze. My hand clutched the zipper tight. "Mom, this is my stuff. I bought this laptop. These are my clothes. I said give it to me." I turned to leave, and ran right into Peter. He didn't speak. He grabbed me by the collar and yanked me backward. I lost my balance and crashed into the dresser. "You ungrateful little piece of sh!" he snarled, then grabbed a fistful of my hair and dragged me out of the room. I tried to resist, but he was taller, heavier, and had that desperate strength of a man who knows he's about to lose control. He dragged me through the hallway, down the stairs, past Ryan, who didn't even pause his game, and out the front door. The porch steps slammed into my knees as I tumbled onto the lawn. My backpack hit the grass a second later, thrown with such force it burst open. My laptop cracked. My photo of Grandpa slid into the dirt, face down. The door slammed shut behind me. I sat there for a long time, bleeding from my elbow, staring up at the house I grew up in. My home. Or what used to be one. I wanted to scream. I wanted to kick the door down and demand justice. But I knew better. This wasn't over. They thought they could erase Grandpa's will. Hide the truth. Keep the money. But I wasn't that scared, silent kid anymore. Not their doormat. Not the background character in Ryan's story. I stood up, brushed the dirt off my jeans, grabbed the broken pieces of my laptop, and walked away. By the time I got to the corner, I'd already made my decision. I was going to take back everything they stole, legally, completely, and without mercy. After I got kicked out, I crashed on my friend Milo's couch. One pillow, no blanket, a floor fan that made weird clicking noises all night. But I was grateful, more than grateful. That tiny studio apartment with its ramen-stained carpet felt more like home than the house I got dragged out of. Milo kept things simple. "You want revenge, man?" he said, sliding me a cup of instant coffee. "Cool. But don't go full psycho. Use your brain. That's the part they hate most about you." He had a point. While I slept like garbage and woke up sore, the one thing I still had was the will. A legally binding document naming me the sole beneficiary of Grandpa Arthur's estate, $10 million in assets. I'd scanned it into my phone. I had the lawyer's contact saved. And I knew one thing: something dirty had happened. I called Grandpa's attorney, Mr. Langford, a sharp old man with a voice like gravel. I told him what happened, how my mother said the will doesn't exist anymore. There was a long pause. "She said that?" "Exact words." Langford sighed. "Connor, we filed that will with probate court the week after Arthur passed. Unless someone submitted a newer one, it's still valid and enforceable." "A newer one? Is that even possible?" "Technically, yes. If Arthur drafted and signed a new will, and it meets legal standards, witnesses, notarization, it could override the previous one." I rubbed my face. "But Grandpa was in hospice the last month. He barely spoke, couldn't even hold a pen properly." Langford's tone went ice cold. "Then whoever submitted a newer will, if they did, is going to be in a lot of trouble." I felt something click inside me. A new will. Probably fake. Probably forged. And I knew exactly who would stoop low enough to do it. I asked Langford to send me the copy of the original will, just in case I needed to prove my claim later. He agreed. Next, I searched county records online, and sure enough, 2 wills had been filed. One from 6 months before Grandpa's death, the real one. and one dated 3 weeks before he died, signed while he was allegedly under palliative sedation. That second will left everything to my mother, with a family allocation clause, gifting Ryan the majority of the estate. There it was, in black and white. A full-on inheritance hijacking. I could almost see it play out, Mom sweet-talking some notary into signing it, Peter forging Grandpa's scribbled signature with a hand from one of Ryan's drawing classes. And then, boom, they had it. Handled my ass. I wasn't just going to fight this. I was going to expose it. I met with Langford in person 2 days later. He looked even more furious than I felt. "This new will is a joke," he said, flipping through the photocopy. "The signature doesn't match. The witnesses? One's your uncle, your mother's brother, and the other's Ryan's high school teacher." My jaw clenched. "So what now?" "We contest it. Formally. We take it to probate court, present evidence of Grandpa's health condition, handwriting samples, character witness statements, and we demand a handwriting analysis." "And what are the odds we win?" Langford leaned back and smiled. "Son, I've been doing this for 40 years. And this," he held up the fake will, "is the sloppiest forgery I've ever seen." It was on. I spent the next week gathering everything: voice memos from Grandpa, texts he'd sent me about the inheritance, emails confirming the old will. I even found a voicemail from him a month before he died, saying, "Don't let them twist this, Connor. You were always the one." It made me cry. Then it made me mad. And in that anger, I found clarity. My mom, Peter, Ryan, they didn't just steal from me. They spat on my father's memory. On Grandpa's dying wishes. They erased me like I was nothing. But I wasn't nothing. I was about to become the storm they never saw coming. If you've never contested a will in court, let me save you the suspense. It's not like the movies. No slamming fists or gasps from the jury. No dramatic last-minute confessions. It's slow, dry, technical. But every minute in that courtroom felt like justice was sharpening its knife. Langford and I filed the formal challenge: fraudulent execution of a will, citing Grandpa Arthur's mental incapacity and suspicious witness selection. We requested a handwriting expert to analyze both signatures side by side. Mom, of course, lawyered up fast. She walked into probate court in heels like she was heading to brunch. Peter sat beside her with his arms crossed, wearing a smug look that made me want to throw my chair at him. I caught a flash of Ryan behind them, sitting 3 rows back, wearing designer sunglasses inside like a wannabe rapper. I hadn't seen him in person since he watched me get dragged across our front lawn like garbage. He didn't look at me. Just scrolled through his phone. Langford stood like a man with nothing to lose and everything to prove. Calm, methodical, and devastating. "We contend," he began, voice crisp, "that Mr. Arthur Whitaker was mentally incapacitated and medically sedated at the time this so-called new will was signed. The witnesses? One is the testator's estranged in-law. The other is a public high school art teacher with no medical or legal qualifications." He paused, then dropped the kicker. "We also have handwriting analysis that strongly suggests forgery." The judge, a sharp-eyed woman who looked like she'd eaten 5 attorneys for breakfast, raised an eyebrow. "Proceed." Langford presented both wills side by side. Same format. Same typeface. Same name. Completely different handwriting. The analyst took the stand. Her voice was steady, technical, and utterly damning. The signature on the earlier will shows natural flow, pen pressure, and personal nuance consistent with Mr. Whitaker's known writing style. The newer one is shaky, inconsistent, and, frankly, looks like someone mimicking a signature without understanding its mechanics. In my professional opinion, it is not authentic. I glanced toward my mom. Her face didn't move, but I saw her throat bob in a silent swallow. Peter leaned forward, whispering something into her ear. She didn't respond. Then Langford hit them again, this time with Grandpa's hospice records. Medications. Notes from nurses. A signed statement from the hospice director. Mr. Whitaker was not of sound mind or physical capacity to execute legal documents at the time referenced. Nail. Coffin. Shut. Peter's lawyer stood up and tried to throw some Hail Mary. Maybe Arthur had a lucid day, the signature could have been done earlier. Blah blah blah, but no one was buying it. Especially not the judge. Unless you have sworn statements or audio-video proof of lucidity during that time, she said, you are dangerously close to misrepresenting the facts of this case. Peter's lawyer sat down fast. We won. Not in a blaze of glory. Not with gasps or cheers. Just a simple declaration. The contested will is declared void. The estate reverts to the prior will, executed on file with the court. That was it. $10 million. Mine. Not a dime for Mom. Not a penny for Peter. And Ryan? I doubt he even understood what had just happened. He stormed out before the ruling was finished, sunglasses still on, like a cartoon villain mid-tantrum. That night I got a text from a random number. You think this makes you better than us? You're still nothing without that money. No name. But I knew who it was. Ryan never could spell your correctly. I didn't reply. Instead, I packed a bag, stopped by a flower shop, and drove out to the cemetery. Bought a folding chair on the way. Brought a second one too. Just me, a six-pack, and Grandpa's grave under the fading orange sky. I sat down, cracked a beer, and whispered, they tried to erase me. But I remember everything. And I remembered you. I stayed until the sun dipped below the trees. Not because I needed closure. But because I wanted him to know, he was right to believe in me. You'd think that winning $10 million would feel like fireworks and freedom, right? Nah. It felt like quiet. Too quiet. The kind of silence that comes after a storm, but you know the storm isn't really over. It's just regrouping. I didn't celebrate. I didn't tell anyone except Milo and Langford. I moved out of his apartment that week and into a small condo Grandpa once rented to tenants. Not fancy, but it was paid off, quiet, and, most importantly, mine. The real estate, the stock accounts, the trust funds, they were all being processed. But that part didn't excite me. What really got my blood moving was the knowledge that they knew. They knew I won. And they hated it. 3 days after the ruling, I got a knock at the door. I opened it, and there she was. My mother. Hair curled, makeup done like she thought this was a school meeting. Her eyes flicked past me, scanning the apartment like she was already calculating resale value. Connor, she said, her voice brittle with forced warmth. Can we talk? I leaned against the doorframe and didn't move. Talk about what? She gave me this sad, pathetic smile. About everything. The will. The misunderstanding. I think things got out of hand. I nearly laughed. Out of hand? You threw me out of the house and tried to erase Grandpa's last wishes. She shifted her purse strap, looking anywhere but my face. Well, Peter got some bad advice. We thought maybe Arthur didn't know what he was doing and... Don't. I didn't raise my voice, but it hit like a slap. Don't stand there and pretend this was some clerical error. You forged a will. You got greedy. And you didn't just lie to a court, you spat on the only man in this family who ever gave a damn about me. Now she looked hurt. Like I was the one being cruel. You're still my son, Connor, she whispered. No, I said. I was your son. Until the second you picked Ryan over me again. And again. And again. She was silent. Then came the pitch. We're in a bit of a rough place now. Ryan's student loans are due. The credit cards are maxed out. I raised a hand. Stop. But, do you remember what you said when you kicked me out? She blinked. You said, and I quote, you're not taking anything from here. Hand over that bag. Her face flushed. I continued. Now you want to come here, into the home Grandpa left me, and ask for money? After you tried to steal $10 million from me? She tried to keep the smile up, but her eyes were panicking now. Just a small loan. For Ryan. Just until he gets on his feet. Ryan has a college degree I paid for. I snapped. He had a house I paid for. And he had parents who bent the world for him while dragging me by the hair out the door. She flinched again. Good. You made your choice. I finished. Now live with it. Then I did something that hurt way more than yelling. I shut the door in her face. Gently. Deliberately. Like closing the final page of a book I'd outgrown. Later that night, Milo texted me a screenshot. Ryan had posted a pity party on social media. Crazy how family turns on you when you need them the most. Money changes people. #loyalty is rare. I didn't even reply. I just updated my will. Every last cent was going to charities, scholarships, and maybe, just maybe, a cat rescue. Because cats? They don't fake wills and call you nothing. The thing about people like my mom and Peter is, they never really believe they've lost. Not completely. Not until someone walks into their kingdom, tears down the velvet curtains, and replaces the locks. So I did exactly that. Lanford had been helping me manage the estate. One of the properties under Grandpa's name was, the very house they lived in. The one they dragged me out of, hair in hand, screaming about not taking anything. Turns out, my grandfather still legally owned the land. The mortgage had been paid off decades ago, and the deed? Never transferred. They were living there for free, on a property they thought they'd get for good after forging that will. Until the courts revalidated the original one. Which made me, legally, their landlord. I asked Langford how long it would take to formally transfer the title to me. Not long, he said, flipping through the paperwork. But I have to ask, what do you want to do with it? I stared out the window for a long time. Then I grinned. Evict them. We gave them 60 days' notice. Standard. Clean. Legal. No drama. Just cold paperwork taped to the front door like a Christmas wreath from hell. Mom called first. I didn't answer. Then came Peter, voicemails so full of rage and disbelief you'd think I had stolen their inheritance. He called me. Ungrateful. Said I was. Tearing the family apart. You dragged me out by my scalp, bro. I think that ship already sailed. Ryan DM'd me on Instagram. You're making a mistake. You won't feel right about this. We're still family. I replied with one word. No. Then I blocked him. 2 weeks into the eviction window, something strange happened. I started getting calls from extended family. People I hadn't heard from in years. Cousins. Old uncles. Even Aunt Sheila, who used to slip me dollar bills at barbecues when Mom wasn't looking. Turns out my mom was working the phones, painting me as some money-hungry sociopath who kicked his own family onto the street. Aunt Sheila's voicemail cracked me up. Honey, I'm sure there's been a misunderstanding. You've always been such a sweet boy. Surely there's a way to forgive. No, Aunt Sheila. There isn't. But I figured, you know what? Let's clear things up. I wrote a post on Facebook. Just text. No pictures. No hashtags. Some of you have reached out to ask why I'm evicting my mother, stepfather, and half-brother. So let me be clear. They forged a will to steal $10 million that my grandfather left me. They physically dragged me out of their house when I confronted them. They told me I wasn't part of the family. Now that I've legally inherited everything, I'm choosing peace over revenge. But peace means not giving free homes to people who tried to erase me. If you have a problem with that, feel free to unfollow. But don't text me asking for the full story, unless you plan to listen all the way to the end. I logged out and went to bed. By morning, half the family drama had gone radio silent. Funny how quiet people get when receipts start talking. When the 60 days were up, they were still in the house, delusional as ever. So I did what anyone would do. I sold it. To a developer. Cash. They were served a final notice, along with a new key holder. The same home I grew up in? Gone. The porch I got dragged off of? Bulldozed within 2 months. Poetic, really. The home they thought was a monument to their power? Now a construction site. And me? I stood on the sidewalk and watched them load up their SUV like every other broke tenant who thought the rules didn't apply to them. Peter gave me one last glare before driving off. Mom didn't even look at me. But Ryan? He flipped me off from the back seat. So I waved. Like a king. I wasn't planning to go public. Not really. The idea of airing my family's dirty laundry in front of strangers felt gross. I thought eviction would be enough. The courts had spoken. The house was sold. Their hands were caught in the inheritance jar. But then Ryan went online. And that changed everything. I was scrolling through Reddit one night, half asleep, wrapped in a hoodie that still smelled like Milo's old couch, when I stumbled onto the post. Title: My evil half-brother stole our inheritance and kicked us out of our family home. Advice? Posted on our /legal advice under a throwaway account. But it was him. No doubt. He described me as an unstable older sibling with anger issues. Said I manipulated our dying grandfather into changing his will. That I'd bribed a lawyer, faked documents, and kicked our mom out of her own house. The audacity. I wasn't even mad. I was entertained. Like watching a raccoon try to sue a garbage truck. But what got me? The sympathy. The comments were full of people consoling him. I'm so sorry you're dealing with this. Family can be so cruel when money's involved. Lawyer up and fight back. And then this gem. Here's a GoFundMe link to help my family get back on their feet. He'd already raised $5,200. That's when I stopped laughing. So I responded. But not the way they expected. I created my own throwaway account, one post, one comment, no drama. I linked to official court documents, available through public record, showing the ruling against the forged will. I posted photos of the original will, blacked out for privacy. I even uploaded scans of hospice records confirming my grandfather was mentally incapacitated at the time their new will was signed. Then I said, before you donate to a stranger online, make sure they're not the one who committed fraud, lied under oath, and tried to erase someone from their own inheritance. Receipts matter. I didn't mention names. I didn't have to. Within 2 hours, Ryan's post was removed by moderators. By the next day, someone screenshotted the whole thing and reposted it on our /best-of-redditupdates. It blew up. Hundreds of comments. Thousands of upvotes. People dissecting every sentence, every contradiction in Ryan's sob story. Reddit detectives started piecing it together. Someone even found Ryan's real social media account through cross-referenced usernames. And then it happened. A friend of mine, who works in digital marketing, texted me. Dude, you're trending on TikTok. I opened the app. There it was. A girl reading my Reddit comment over lo-fi music. When your family calls you the villain for enforcing a dead man's will. Caption. Not all heroes wear capes. Some serve eviction notices. It had 2.3 million views in 24 hours. The fallout hit fast. Ryan deleted all his social media. Mom shut down her Facebook. Peter, I'm told, got let go from his sales job after someone anonymously sent the Reddit thread to his boss. Apparently, forging legal documents isn't great for your resume. They tried calling me. Blocked. They tried emailing me. Bounced. Even Aunt Sheila posted some cryptic apology about choosing the wrong side of the story. Her grandkids probably explained the internet to her. I didn't respond to any of them. Because I didn't have to. The truth was out there now, and it had legs. But here's the wild part. I wasn't doing any of this for revenge anymore. I didn't want them to suffer. I just wanted peace. Real peace. The kind that doesn't rely on anyone else's approval, or memory, or apology. That peace came when I walked through a bookstore 2 days later and overheard 2 strangers talking about it. Did you read the Reddit story? The one where the guy evicts his toxic family after they tried to steal $10 million from him? Yes. It was like watching a movie unfold. I swear, I'd pay to see that in theaters. I smiled to myself. Because that's all I ever wanted. For someone to see me. It's been almost a year. A year since I stood in that courtroom, clutching Grandpa's real will. A year since my mother tried to steal $10 million and threw me out of my own home like a stranger. A year since I watched the house I grew up in get flattened into dust. And you know what? I don't miss any of it. Not the house. Not the family. Not even the apology that never came. Because I stopped needing closure the moment I realized I was never the villain in their story. I was just the only one who didn't play make-believe. After the dust settled, I made a decision. No flashy cars. No yacht. No weird midlife crisis mansion. Instead, I used the money the way Grandpa would have wanted, to build something bigger than revenge. I created a scholarship in his name. The Arthur Whitaker Foundation for Forgotten Kids. It pays full tuition for students who are left behind, orphans, abused kids, those pushed to the sidelines by their own families. I seeded it with $1.5 million, and with Langford's help, set up an endowment that will last decades. And here's the kicker? Every accepted student gets a welcome letter signed by me, handwritten, just like the ones Grandpa used to send me every birthday. Even when no one else remembered. I also bought a house. Not for me. For a woman named Denise. She was Grandpa's hospice nurse. Turns out she took care of him in his final days when nobody else bothered to visit. She used to read to him, sit with him when he couldn't speak, and once, on her own dime, brought him a fresh-baked rhubarb pie just because he mentioned it in passing. She never asked for anything. So I bought her a house and paid off her medical school loans. When I told her, she cried and hugged me so hard I thought my ribs cracked. That hug? That was the most real family moment I've had in years. And me? I live quietly now. Peacefully. A little outside the city. I freelance from home, cook my own meals, take walks, read. No drama. No noise. Just freedom. I get emails from students who received the scholarship. One of them ended her letter with this. You probably don't remember me. But I'll never forget you. I read it 3 times. Because, yeah? That's how they used to treat me. Forgettable. Replaceable. Background noise. But now I'm the one who left something behind that actually matters. My mom, Peter, and Ryan haven't tried to reach out since the Reddit storm. The last I heard, they were renting a small apartment in another state, still blaming me for ruining the family. It's funny, isn't it? They tried to bury me. And I became the foundation. They tried to take everything. And I gave more than they ever could. They tried to erase me. And I signed every one of their consequences with my full name. When people ask me if I regret going no contact, I say no. I regret trusting people who didn't earn it. But walking away? That saved my life. And every time I sit down with a cup of tea, a good book, and the sun pouring through my own damn windows, I smile. Because the quiet sun? He wasn't weak. He was just waiting.